Welcome back. Well, now what we'll do is we'll go through the same cylinder head. This is an Engine Quest CH350 ice head, which is popular for a lot of racetracks around the country, and how we put them together versus the warehouse cylinder head. Okay. The first thing is these heads are pressure tested. We get them out of the box and we pressure test them so we don't have any surprises as far as exhaust seats leaking or leaking in other parts of the head. Quite frankly, very rarely does it happen with the Engine Quest heads. We do have a few heads a year that we have to send back, so that's why we pressure test them. We don't want to send heads to you and you find a hole in the cylinder heads. Okay, so we're going to go over just the mechanical parts of why our heads are different and do cost more versus the warehouse heads. The first thing that you're going to notice with our cylinder heads is that they all have guide liners in. The warehouse heads do not have guide liners in. The guide liners are put in, it's a bronze guide liner, and the reason that we put them in is because these heads tend to wear out the guides relatively quickly, perhaps after about half a season. Hard to see the bronze liner, but we go to the extent of putting that in, and then we do a valve job to the heads, which we'll get into a little later. As far as parts is concerned on the cylinder head, valve springs. These are a set of ISKI 235D. Springs been around forever. A lot of people use them. We use a lot of ISKI. We use a lot of pack springs in the inch and a quarter applications. And this retainer fits relatively snugly on the valve spring. There's probably about 5 or 10 thousandths play there. On the aftermarket or the warehouse heads, we had over 100 thousandths of play. So that's a very critical thing as far as the cylinder heads are concerned. The other aspect of this cylinder head that's different is we machine all of our cylinder heads for spring locators or spring cups. This is a spring cup. This will locate on the outside diameter of the spring. We actually developed this cup. They only make some for us, and they do offer them to other people. And that locates the spring in the bottom. So the spring isn't going to tear up the cylinder head as it rotates. So we machine the heads for that cup, and the cup goes on there like so. And when we shim it for the proper installed height, the shim will go underneath the cup, and then the cup will go on top like so. So it's pretty bulletproof. It's located securely on the top and located securely on the bottom, so it's not going to tear up the cylinder head. So the next thing is the valves. We use a straight stem valve. The straight stem valves actually flow a little bit better than a typical neck down stem valve, and we put a back cut on the valve. It doesn't take long to put a back cut on the intake and on the exhaust valves, and the back cuts do help airflow, and it will keep you out of any legality issues in case you race at a place where you're not allowed to run neck down valves. So the other machining that we do to the cylinder heads that's different than the warehouse cylinder heads is we prep them for screw and studs. So what we're doing is we're opening up push-out holes. So if you open up the push-out holes, then you are able to put ARP studs is all we use. I can't say that we use some Manley studs on some cylinder heads. So here you're able to put regular screw-in studs on and guide plates. And the last thing, as far as mechanically looking at the cylinder heads, our heads would be surfaced. So if you have, let's say, a 9.5 to 1 rule, and you need the heads at 72 cc's, we'll surface the heads down to 72 cc's. And the other thing is record keeping. When you get the cylinder heads from us, the receipt will have all of the part numbers that we put in the cylinder heads, the valve part numbers, spring part numbers, retainer part numbers. It'll have the head CCs, and it'll also have your spring pressures. So that'll give you some reference in case you need a part or for future builds and so on and so forth. You'll know exactly what the cylinder head is. And the other thing is we put a head number on. Not real obvious. We just stamp a little number on all of our cylinder heads, and we can refer back to those to that data. Now I have cylinder heads that people call us up about that are done in the 80s, and we still have records on heads that were done over 30 years ago. So overall, that's the mechanical differences between the warehouse cylinder head, which has no machining, and our cylinder heads is quite a bit of machining. As you can see, there's a lot more time, a lot more energy, a lot more thought goes into these heads. Of course, they're probably about double the cost of what the warehouse are, but it's going to last probably about 10 times longer. In the next video, we'll get into a little bit of the performance aspects of the cylinder heads and what makes our cylinder heads perform way better than a warehouse head or a head that's had little or no performance improvements done to it.